Kind of Young Turks. Now we have an in-studio guest, and we're feeling good about it. Author of Unscientific America, How Scientific Illiteracy Threatens Our Future, Chris Mooney, along with Cheryl Kirschenbaum. But Chris joins us now. This is the book. It's a lovely book. And this is Chris. Look at this. All right, Chris, you had a New York Times bestseller earlier, The Republican War on Science. And that's what I'd like to start with. Okay. Now, I know you say we have a problem with science in the country. I think the two main causes are two R's. Republicans and religion. Okay. Now, I want you to tell me, one, the problems that those create, and then two, if I'm, leaving other things out. So let's start right there.
Absolutely. Well, that knocks out a lot of it, right there. I mean, Republicans, climate change. If you are a Republican, then you don't want anything to do with this Al Gore business. It's part of your party identity to reject the science on the most critical environmental issue, and in many ways the most critical national security issue that we have, right? Mm-hmm. So they're turned off to the science in this critical area. Religion, evolution. There's a whole fundamentalist swath of the country that just will not accept the science of evolution, which is more than 150 years old. 150 years old this year, mm-hmm. And they think it's an assault on their faith. They're being told from pulpits that they just cannot accept it, or else they can't be good Christians. This is actually wrong, but that's what they're being told. So that does knock out a lot of the antipathy towards science. It does explain it.
See, because naturally, logically speaking, there's no reason why one of the most advanced countries in the world, the United States of America, should be opposed to science. I mean, there's actually literally nothing to be opposed to. Science isn't an ideology, it's facts. Mm-hmm. You do a test, and if it turns out your ideology was false, then the evidence and the experiments will prove it false.
Hopefully.
So it's like arguing against math. Like 2 + 2 = 4, no matter how much you want it to equal 5 or 3. But yet in this country there is an organized effort against science.
Absolutely.
Now, one part of that is religion, of course, because of evolution and Genesis and that stuff. But the other part is, let me run this theory by you. The Republicans don't want you to have the facts. That's why they attack science. That's why they attack journalism. That's why they attack higher education, because they want you to listen to propaganda and not the facts. Mm-hmm. Now, am I overstretching by saying that, or do you think that's right?
No, I think that's very accurate. I mean, they want to create their own bubble around mm-hmm. their people, their followers, and so they give them their own. Not only do they attack journalism, but they give them their own media. Not only do they attack higher education, but they give them their own universities, right? And the idea is to create a whole Republican reality that's counter to, that supports what they want to do anyway. And that's why it's so hard to find common ground on any issue, right? Is because they've got all the. If you can't agree on the facts, you're never going to agree on policy.
So let's get to the second layer of this problem. Now the media feels, especially the political media, feels that it is their job to call everything 50-50, right? And if you have a group of Americans saying 2 + 2 = 4, and then you have another group saying 2 + 2 = 5, and the media has to pretend that they're both equally valid, isn't the playing field tilted against reality?
Absolutely, and scientists hate this. And this happens on some of the key issues like climate change. There have been studies done showing that throughout the 90s, many leading journalists at leading newspapers did the balanced account on global warming. On the one hand, on the other hand, really that wasn't a fair story. The scientists were forming and establishing a consensus position that was that humans are causing global warming. It gets even worse now because we argue in the new book that science journalists are losing their jobs across the country. The people that are most likely to know how to cover these stories because they understand science, those are the people that are losing positions as the newspaper industry implodes.
Why is that, Chris?
Well, the newspaper industry is having to cut jobs, and what do they keep? Well, they keep the sports section, they keep the horoscope. The science writer, the specialist, often it just doesn't seem worth retaining to them.
So let's go to that part of it. I mean, do you think that those political problems have translated to a situation where science is simply not valued enough in this culture, and then I don't know if it's too much to say that'll be our undoing, but that presents a significant national problem for us?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, there are other countries that realize that science is their future, okay? South Korea, Singapore, China, India, they're putting everything into this because they know that it's going to lead to economic growth and it's going to lead to prosperity. We had a moment like that. It was the 50s and 60s where we felt that way. We've sort of fallen away from that now. And Americans, you poll them, they'll say that, science is good, they have good feelings towards it. Very few can name a living scientist, just something like 18% can actually name a living American scientist. The first one that comes up is Stephen Hawking, a British guy who's actually alive. It takes a while to get an American. They're not tuned in to this world of science and what's going on in it.
So let's talk about what changed there. And we're talking to Chris Mooney. He's one of the authors of Unscientific America. Why were we into science in the 50s and 60s, and how did we lose that momentum?
Well, it was the Cold War, right? Soviets put up Sputnik, and we're scared. And we're like, we're not going to let them get ahead of us in space. Well, they're already ahead of us. We're not going to let them stay ahead of us. We're going to launch this massive space program. We're going to invest all this money in not just, creating NASA, but scientific research, science education, careers for scientists. All of these careers are created at universities with government money. And we built the scientific establishment that became the best in the world. And it still is the best in the world up to the present moment. Then a lot of things happened. It's 40 years, almost to the day, after we landed on the moon. And there was sort of a decline of interest in science after that.
So, let me then give you my theory on that as a corollary to what you're saying. It seems to me that we got lazy. That once we had competition, we had to figure out the best way.
Right.
It's like if you're in the middle of a war and you're losing and you're in big trouble, you got to figure out how to beat that enemy as quickly as you possibly can. You got to find the best catapult, and you don't have time to figure out, And if somebody says to you, hey, what if we fired invisible catapults? You say, look, you don't understand, we're all about to die. We don't have time for nonsense invisible catapults. But if you're winning comfortably, I mean, you're just kicking ass, and somebody says, hey, you want to fire invisible catapults? You're like, sure, why not?
We'll try.
Okay, I mean, have at it, Hoss. What difference does it make, right? So
totally.
I feel like we got complacent.
That's a lot of it, yeah. But we also got politicized. I mean, this was sort of a consensus at that time. It was the handoff from Eisenhower to Kennedy, Republican to Democrat. They both agreed about the importance of science. There was no partisan bickering over the fact that we have to have a space program. We have to be competitive. Now, the story of the 70s, the 80s is in part the story of the rise of the Republican Party as it is today, and the Reagan, revolution, which changed our politics, and science was tied up in that.
Chris, let's talk about the politics for a second. When do you think it changed? I mean, was it Reagan? I feel like Reagan...
It was starting to change before that, but
I don't remember it. It might be that I might have been young, right? But I feel like it was really the Bush years, the second Bush years. I could be wrong. So if you have specific moments in time where they changed, I didn't get a sense that George W. Bush was...
Well, he was a throwback.
You
know? I mean, and Reagan was different than Bush too, as well. But during the Reagan years, Reagan brings together the Republican coalition, right? He brings together the religious conservatives and the anti-tax people and the corporate America, I don't want regulation people, and they formed this coalition that they were very successful with. And that is an anti-science coalition in the sense that the religious people want to fight evolution. And so you got the moral majority, Jerry Falwell, really powerful during the Reagan era, and Reagan says things anti-evolution. And you got industry, so they're attacking the science on things like chlorofluorocarbons and stuff like that. So that's the same kind of stuff you saw in Bush too. Just sort of carried over the same kind of tendency.
It's probably a simple answer, which is that Reagan starts the ball rolling on all this, and then George W. Bush just takes it over the top on every single issue. At that point, the Republican Party becomes fully captured by the religious right and by corporations. And once you get captured by the corporations, then ExxonMobil, they don't want you to find out the real science because it's going to cost them money. I get their motivation, right? So, and then once you have the full capture of the Republican Party, then they become officially the anti-science party. And I think in the long term, that's a disastrous place to be politically, right? And right now, we're getting to be in the long term. Right?
No, they're sort of casting about. I mean, we'll have to see if another leader arises. I mean, McCain, when he wasn't running for president, was actually a pretty pro-science guy.
Until he had to go and appeal to that base. So let's get to that final issue there. And we're talking to Chris Mooney. He's the author of Unscientific America. It's a lovely book, and we're going to put it up right away on the Young Turks Library, of course, theyoungturks.com. So how do you fight back against Genesis? I mean, that's a tricky thing, okay? Because people will say, hey, look, this is my faith. This is my religion. You can't argue with it. Yet it's just not true. I mean, you know.
Right. And so it's tough, right? Because they live in this hermetically sealed environment where basically they got their pastor and they got their neighbors and they all agree, right? And if you attack from the outside, they're like, you're a liberal elitist. And they've already told us to be wary of people like you with your evolution. Well, they're not going to listen.
So with your forked tongue, I know you, Chris.
So I mean, so it's incredibly difficult to do. And this is why we have a culture war. And this is why we have red states and blue states. But if you want to do anything, I think what you have to do is you have to figure out the motivations of people and why they're having problems with science. And you got to figure out the messengers that might be able to reach them. And in many cases, I think it's a scientist who is religious, who can go in and say, you know what, you guys have been told wrong. I'm a good Christian, and evolution's no problem for me. You know, God made it all, and He made evolution too. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
You know, there is no logical reason why you can't believe in some sort of God or spirituality and still believe in science. Now, of course, the problem is you can't believe in science and literally believe the religious text.
Right.
That's the issue.
You can't read it literally, no, or else you'll definitely have problems.
Right. And if you read it, and no one really does, they're faking it. They pick, no, but
No,
literally.
I know. God put every comma in that place, and every semicolon.
First of all, historically we know it's not true,
Right.
but it doesn't matter because logically it's impossible to carry out, and that's why they'll pick and choose.
Right.
So they'll see, don't eat shrimp, otherwise God will hate you, and they're like, I don't like that part. I'm going to ignore that part. Don't like gay people. Yes, I like this one. We could use this one. So I think if we can get beyond literalism, that we can get beyond a lot of this.
Yeah. No, I think that's anti-science fundamentalism and biblical literalism are really the same thing. Yeah.
Right. All right. Well, it's a really great book, and of course, you got to remember, and it's in the book a lot, which is this is how we win. Okay, we win with facts. We win with science. And if we don't do it, and then it turns out China zooms past us, we're going to have no one to blame but ourselves. The book is called Unscientific America: How Scientific Illiteracy Threatens Our Future. Thanks so much for coming in, Chris. Really
Great to be with you.